wisdom make a kill it, alien wisdom make a kill it, alien wisdom make a kill it. You won't see me stand up.
Get my phone walking stack, show my love to these Muslim motherfuckers talking shit. Put my gloves on my hand, like I'm master planning scheming for a while. Million wisdom make a kill it, you won't see me standing dry. Got that man on my head, shooting busters when they sleep. Got that mac and cheese, I need some cheese, so all I got is Mexican kids. Hit the liquor store, I ain't get no bottles, give me higher though. Break it up and chop it up your ass so long I kick you off. When I'm peeping through the alleys with the fucking bean, bitch. Got the hockey mix, but I ain't play no kids, just make me bitch. Ammo in it, I gotta make my cheese, so chop it out. We bust the scary jeans and Stevie Kings and cemeteries where I put you. In my hood, it's all good, even though we struggle. Hustling, need to make some bail, got money to book, so family's with it. About to break the face, they don't wanna see us living up. The players gotta stay paid. I'm gonna buy go beat the chop. I don't give a fuck about your drama, bring it to the door. We running from the cliff, you catch a break, it's break it, keep you go. I just want the money, it's so good, I never wanna blow. Break it up some papa, give me cheese, and then I gotta go. Smoke from the I didn't see you running high. Put that UAV on beaches, rocket launches, I didn't teach you. Living a funky down, ass out on the ground, leave me dead. In the mad, nothing bitches up the bed. Wisdom make a kill it, alien wisdom make a kill it, alien wisdom make a kill it. You won't see me stand drop. Alien wisdom make a kill it, alien wisdom make a kill it, alien wisdom make a kill it. You won't see me stand drop. Alien wisdom make a kill it, alien wisdom make a kill it, alien wisdom make a kill it. You won't see me stand drop. Alien wisdom make a kill it, alien wisdom make a kill it, alien wisdom make a kill it. You won't see me stand drop.
Yeah, that's fucking right. We're looking at a live protest right here happening at MIT. Props to the hard workers out there. Props to them hard workers out there. Oh, this sounds very good. We'll just go ahead and listen to this. Ice Vic, sounds from the Crypt. Before that, we were listening to this wonderful track. Mishta? I don't fucking know. Mishta? I don't know. MXSTVH. You tell me what that said. Million Ways to Make a Killing. Absolutely wonderful track. But yeah, we'll rock up to this Eyes Vic. We got big news, folks. It's big flipjacking news. There's no other way to put it. Get this piece of shit off my screen for a minute. We're not gonna be talking about JD fucking Vance today. Maybe Bernie. I don't know. I'm all mixed up over here. But no, this is huge news. We're going to get right into it right now. Hamas has accepted the peace deal. Of course, Israel has no intention of stopping. So let's just get into it right away, and then we'll just add commentary as we go, because we got to catch up.
We're breaking into our regular programming with breaking news here. A leading Hamas official has told Al Jazeera that the group has now accepted a ceasefire proposal put forward by Egyptian and Qatari mediators. Mediators have been scrambling to negotiate a ceasefire deal as Israel threatens an offensive in Gaza's southern city of Rafah. No later than this morning, Israel told 100,000 Palestinians living in eastern Rafah to evacuate the area. We're going to get over the next few hours as much as we can about this, as much as we can understand and know about this. Where we are right now, to repeat if you're just joining us, is that Hamas has communicated that it is accepting a ceasefire proposal, and it has said this to the two main negotiators, which are Qatar and Egypt. As you know, negotiations have been taking place recently in the Egyptian capital, Cairo. Tariq Abu Azoum is joining us from inside the Gaza Strip. You're in Rafah, Tariq. First of all, are you hearing anything on your end?
This is not live, by the way. This is about an hour ago.
About this.
Yes, what we do here is that Hamas movement has told Al Jazeera that they have agreed on the ceasefire proposal being initiated by the regional mediators, including Egypt and Qatar. The chief of the political bureau, Ismail Haniyeh, has been calling the head of the Egyptian intelligence, informing and delivering the positive response from the movement regarding the proposal being initiated by the Egyptian authorities. Now, clearly, as a result of that decision, Palestinians, as they hear this announcement by Hamas, they have been celebrating that the announcement was was a clear positive step being taken from the Palestinian side, as they are completely happy that this step can help to prevent a potential military incursion for Rafah district. Now, people right now here are so happy, and there is a great sense of optimism among them as they are chanting that it's time right now for return, it's time right now for a ceasefire. That is right now the situation in Rafah, this area that has been widely attacked since the early hours of this morning. Now, what we do also hear among residents is that they are so optimistic and happy about this step, as they are waiting for a further confirmation from the Israeli side about the possibility to approach to a ceasefire deal, as they are completely dependent right now on the efforts being made by regional mediators to bridge the gaps of disagreement between Hamas and Israel, in light of their ongoing hopes to get to hear an official announcement for the ceasefire within the coming hours or days.
Okay,
stop talking.
Tariq, help us take in the scene around you, because I'm hearing car horns, I'm hearing people shouting, I'm hearing what sound like scenes of elation and happiness. Take a moment to look around you, listen to what people are saying. What exactly are they sharing? What are the thoughts and words that they're sharing?
Now people here, as I can let you see right now, the cameraman is moving the camera, is that people are celebrating now. They are celebrating in the entire vicinity of Al-Kuwaiti Hospital. They are so happy about that step that has been taken by the Palestinian side, by Hamas movement, regarding their acceptance to the ceasefire agreement. Now, what we do hear from residents is that they are chanting for the peace. They are chanting for the return. You can right now see how people are celebrating. You can see children. You can see how elderly people, young men are chanting and so excited about the announcement of this step from the Hamas side. They have been, in fact, under wide attacks within the past couple of weeks and days, and they are right now, everyone, including the children, are happy about that step, because they believe that Rafah invasion will bring unspeakable humanitarian catastrophe where a bloodbath will be shedded. But now they are so optimistic, and that was completely no longer was afforded in the past couple of days. But now with this announcement, the situation on the ground sounds really optimistic about this step, as they are waiting to hear the announcement as soon as possible.
Tariq, do you think you're able to speak to anybody around you? Go ahead, take your time, and you can translate to us if they don't speak English. Do you think you can speak to the people around you so that we can hear their thoughts and reactions?
Well, right now, I will try to host one of the Palestinians, but they are completely, everyone is absolutely happy about this. They are just right now crazy about this step that's been taken, as they appreciate so much. There is a great sense of happiness right now among those people. I'll try within the coming hours to bring more Palestinians to speak about how they evaluate this step on the ground.
Israel is going to 100%
Tariq, the area
move
where you
forward
are
with this.
is, you've been there for a few weeks now. You've been pushed south multiple times since the beginning of this conflict. Is one of the last areas where, you know, so many Palestinians have been displaced to, and we're hoping it would be safe. But as we've reported countless times, hasn't been safe, and Rafah continues to be struck. Right now, I see people running around the streets, and I see more people around you than I've seen in, I think, weeks. What does that tell us?
Well, generally, the vast majority of Gaza's population in Rafah are completely experiencing heavy bombardment from land and sea, as they have been going through really difficult weeks. But this announcement right now for Palestinians is a kind of bringing a sense of relief and tranquility among Palestinians, that they might witness an end for the fighting. They are really believing that this ongoing mounting pressure by the American administration and by regional mediators can be fruitful to stop the conflict between Hamas and Israel. They are so exhausted. They have been completely traumatized in the course of the past couple of months, and they were all the time asking about the time for the ceasefire. Right now, as the first time ever, they have been hearing an official confirmation from Hamas sides regarding the ceasefire agreement, they are absolutely optimistic, as they believe that this step will definitely
Israel isn't going to
reduce the caps of disagreement between Hamas and Israel, and it will help to contribute to increase the possibility for approaching to a ceasefire agreement within the foreseeable future.
Israel's going to roll in there, man.
Tariq, can I ask you how you're feeling right now? Because you're a reporter, yes, and you give us the facts as dispassionately and objectively as you can, and you've been doing this for months. But you're also a Palestinian living in Gaza who's been yourself in danger. You've had to be displaced, and you've had to move your family and your relatives multiple times. How do you feel right now, hearing that Hamas has accepted a ceasefire proposal?
Well, what we do believe is that we have been completely under intense bombardment, and we have been going through really difficult times, including reporters, including the crew on the ground, those displaced Palestinians who are completely celebrating, including children, women, elderly, and everyone in the Palestinian community. That is an opportunity to get a sense of relief and even mitigation about this. And in order to know more about this, we're joined right now by a Palestinian man who will speak about how the situation and how this kind of announcement will really represent and means for Palestinians.
Hello. What do you see and what do you think of this announcement by Hamas with regards to accepting the Egyptian proposal for a ceasefire? This is very nice and hopefully would pave the way for the return to Gaza. Do you expect that a deal would be announced soon for a swap deal and a declaration of ceasefire? We hope Allah would facilitate this and we return to our homes. Where did you move from? I am from Gaza itself. Would you like to go back after they announce ceasefire? And what do you say to the world? My message is that I hope that we have the patience and return to Gaza. Thank you.
I'm going to take another one right now.
How do you see this announcement by Hamas about the ceasefire? First of all, praise be to Allah that they didn't invade Rafah, and we greet the people of Gaza for their safety. And we would like to thank all those who stood by our side and by Gaza. Would you like to go back home where you were removed from? Yes, from Beersheba. I am from Rafah.
Now we are going to take another Palestinian man. How do you see this kind of announcement by Hamas side?
It's very important for our issue, Palestinian issue, and about Gaza Strip. We went political isolation, not just humanitarian. For that, we must struggle to have independence from the Israeli occupation, to stop the occupation to Gaza Strip and to West Bank. For that, we must struggle and to see the international community stop the Israel escalation against Gaza Strip. This is the damage that by Israel, by the air forces, by the military, all the weapons that used against Gaza Strip. It's very horrible and very terrible for us. For that, we see this step very important for us, and to back to our houses in North Gaza or in the west of Gaza Strip. Our families very sadness in these days, but in this evening after this announcement, we see the majority of our people very pleasure.
And do you expect that you will return back to your house in the north of the Gaza Strip when the ceasefire will be announced?
We hope that all the families back to their houses this very important, or to stay in the Gaza, in the north of Gaza. It's very dangerous for them and for our future. For that, we hope to rebuilding the universities, our structure, everything that Israel damaged and destroyed, to rebuild that.
Thank you so much for your time, and we're going to take another Palestinian young man to ask him about his impression about this announcement from Hamas side. Now, how do you see this announcement by Hamas regarding their agreement and approval for the ceasefire?
Okay, first of all, thank you, Mr. Tariq, for having me in this interview. I'm going to say that we feel so happy that finally Hamas has agreed about the ceasefire, but now we are waiting for Israeli agreement, and we hope that they will say it. It's after 212 days of genocides, of displacement, of killing children, women, and elderly, and even nurses and doctors. It's not about genocide, it's not about things, it's about time that we have shown the world we have survived after this war. It's not just a war by Israel on Palestinian. It's a war from the world against the Palestinian here in Gaza. Gaza is so small, but yet we have survived 12 to 200 days from most advanced technical weapons against us. We will not forget and we will not forgive. Everything we have witnessed in this war will written in the history. The Palestinians have survived, and we will survive until we get our freedom. The world is calling for freedom, but we don't find any freedom here.
No one,
and do you want to return back to the house that you were displaced from?
Of course. If we travel, what's the benefits of our defending and surviving? There's no point if we travel, if we left our lands. We have survived to return. We have survived so we can call for our freedoms.
Thank you so much for your valuable time, and that's how Palestinians here, children, young people, elderly, are really seeing this announcement being made and approval being made by the Hamas movement side, as everyone is really optimistic about the next steps that might be taken within the coming hours regarding the arrival to a ceasefire agreement between Hamas and Israel that will help to bring an end for the hardships and all kinds of misery Palestinians have been going through.
Tariq, your previous guest was making a very, very important point at this particular point in time. Hamas has accepted, they say that they've accepted this ceasefire proposal by Qatar and by Egypt. We need now to hear from Israel. I mean, Israel has signaled, and its prime minister has signaled multiple times that they were going to invade Rafah, come what may, deal or no deal. So, you know, we need to know. We don't have a full picture of what we're actually looking at and what really is happening right now until we hear from the Israeli side. So I just wanted to put that out there for you, the people you talk to, and also for our viewers, you know, who will be tuning in, trying to understand exactly what's going on. I want to ask you this, Tariq. You have lived through multiple wars with Israel. Have you ever seen scenes like the ones you are witnessing now?
This is tragic.
Well, Cyril, personally, I've been experiencing multiple wars. We are talking about 2009 aggression on the Gaza Strip, 2012, including 2014, which was really bloody for me, and 2021 escalations.
The language of peace from Israel has always been to placate the West. It has never been an honest, real attempt to create peace. I don't understand why they would start now. What's fascinating to me about this whole situation is that it puts the ball squarely in Israel's court. They're like, okay, fine, we'll take the shitty deal. 40-day break, and then it's right back to the annihilation of Hamas, whatever. So, I mean, I guess Israel really did have the final vestiges. I don't know. I mean, Hamas will exist with or without Rafah. So I think this is honestly not about saving any kind of Hamas members in Rafah. I think this is just a strategic negotiating tactic. You know, putting the ball firmly in Israel's court right before they do the invasion, knowing full well that they're going to proceed with it. And God, seeing the crowd, these children, the happiness, the smiles. You know, I'm having a hard time keeping it together right now, actually watching these scenes right here. This is tough. Israel has no intention of stopping. Bibi Netanyahu has literally said that. With or without ceasefire, with or without peace, the Rafah operation is happening. So what's probably happening right now is that motherfucking Joe Biden's on the phone right now, probably talking to Bibi directly. Joe Biden's probably learning some lessons right now, you know, in his almost, you know, he's almost 80, you know, no, he's almost 90. I mean, he's in his 80s. And yeah, this old dog is probably learning some lessons about how loyalty, his pathetic lapdog-like loyalty to Israel is not going to be respected. That he's been fucking played literally his entire political life. He's cashing in all his chips, and Bibi's like, "Fuck you, bitch. I don't give a fuck about your election. I want Trump in office. I want you to lose."
22 and right now 2023, which from my own side is considered to be the bloodiest. I've lost my house, I've lost my entire city that has completely turned into a pile of rubble. We have been talking about being internally displaced for multiple times from a city to another in order to guarantee the full safety of my personal level and also on my family level. We have been talking about that we have been unfolded with different kinds of attacks from land, air and sea, as we have been lucky to survive till this very moment, as the Gaza's Strip has been under wide military offensive since October the 7th now. We personally have been doing our best in order to take all the safety precautions, but this war sounds completely different in terms of the unprecedented scale of destruction being caused on the entire Gaza Strip, alongside to the point that the number of death tolls across the Gaza Strip is so incredibly high. We're talking about more than 34,500 Palestinians being killed till now, with more than 70,000 Palestinians have been injured, and that did not happen in any kind of a previous rounds of escalation and conflict between Hamas and Israel. But for the vast majority of Palestinians, there are peace seekers who are looking to live peacefully in a tranquil atmosphere, as the vast majority of us right now have been exhausted from the deadly consequences of this round of fighting that till now there's no any end in sight for it. Now, with the positive response from Hamas side, we have been having more clear picture about the initiative being taken from the Palestinian side, but the vast majority of Palestinians are waiting for further confirmation from the Israeli side in order to get to a concrete base of agreement between Hamas and Israel, just to bring an end of the hostilities and to make a full cessation of all military acts that bring nothing to the ground but only destruction.
So, Tariq, I listened to what you said. You said you've been through 5 wars with Israel. My question was, have you ever seen at the end of a war, and again, I don't know if that's what we're looking at right now, but have you ever seen at any point during those wars or after those wars or as they ended, have you ever seen the scenes like the ones we're witnessing now?
Yes, certainly. I clearly remember every single time that there was an announcement for the end of the war. We've been talking about multiple announcements being made under the same circumstances throughout regional mediations that are completely has been playing a very contributing role to end and end.
Okay, so we don't, you know, let's stop with the speculation here, because this is, like I said, an hour old, roughly 2 hours now. Let's go ahead and cut to the latest from Al Jazeera. It looks like we have somebody discussing how, you know, the very real reality that a Gaza ceasefire could end Netanyahu's leadership, but war continuation could end Biden's. You know, it's not hyperbolic to say that this is going to be a close election. Some polls are very promising, but you know, I just saw an ABC poll, 51-49 with Biden in the 51. Of course, ABC is made up, you know, the people who watch ABC News are very probably older, so those polls are probably skewed. But we've also seen very positive polling lately for Biden. Of course, that is an excuse to not vote, yada, yada, yada. What I'm trying to say is that, you know, this this idea that the continuation of this war could hurt Biden's electoral chances enough for him to lose, I think is a very real thing. Because it's still, I'm not convinced that there's this wide gap, that Biden is a shoo-in without any problems. And if that was the case, then this would probably be less important. But it's a very real possibility that Biden could lose Michigan, which is a very important swing state in the United States, because of this. And there's an incredibly high Arab and Muslim population in Michigan, and they could just say, "Fuck you, dude." A lot of them are, as we saw with the undecided vote, and pausing weapons, is not going to do it. A ceasefire needs to happen. This needs to be out of the news when people are voting, for that to be effective. All right, so let's get into it here. This discussion, it's going to hurt Bibi to stop. It's going to hurt Biden to continue. Fascinating geopolitics happening right before our eyes.
About the contents of this deal. Here it is. That the ceasefire proposal includes 3 phases, each of them lasting 42 days, so about 6 weeks. The first phase of the deal includes providing passage for displaced Palestinians to return to their homes. The second phase of the deal includes the withdrawal of Israeli troops and cessation of military operations. In the third stage of the deal, there's also a provision on ending the blockade on the Gaza Strip, which has been in place for 17 years. Al Jazeera's senior political analyst, Marwan Bashar, joins us in the studio. Marwan, we're in the middle of something that we can't define yet, because we have one side to this agreement that has accepted it, the other side hasn't.
Well, I'll tell you something. Certainly, we've been here for the first time over the past 7 months. And clearly, Hamas's positive response to the mediator's proposal for a ceasefire has shocked and has took everyone by surprise, especially those in Israel, but perhaps also in the United States. And that's why they are clamoring now to understand what exactly is the response, how positive is it, and what does it really mean towards moving forward. Will there be then a pick-up negotiations, if you will, over the agreement of the agreement in Cairo, and then when you start the phases and so on and so forth. But clearly, it's a huge positive step in the right direction towards a ceasefire. That there is no doubt about. And I think, from my understanding, probably in paragraph 5, that's where you find the key to the change of heart or mind, right? I'm talking about technicality now. They talk about sustained quiet. It's a euphemism for a permanent ceasefire. So Israel does not want to hear the word ceasefire, because clearly Netanyahu cannot sell it to his cabinet. Hamas, apparently, because of the various pressures and mediations.
Likely what is happening right now is that Israel, the Bibi Netanyahu government, Ben Gvir, are working on messaging that we're going to see blasted across all media. They're probably working on their narrative as to why they're not going to accept this and then proceed with the invasion.
Clearly, Netanyahu cannot sell it to his cabinet. Hamas, apparently, because of the various pressures and mediations, accepted finally to sustained quiet as the alternative to a permanent ceasefire.
I want your thoughts on this. I'm listening keenly. You say sustained quiet, and the words that they're having to choose so that they might get agreement on both sides, 2 sides that don't really want the same thing, because one wants to end the war, the other one, as far as we can tell from their public pronouncements, wants to continue the war, and that's Israel. With these major diplomatic deals, often in my career reporting on deals like this one, they're all different, but that's kind of how you get to a deal, is you fudge the language a little bit. Not fudge it, but you have a gray area where both sides can kind of understand what they want. And then that's why so often implementing the deal becomes complicated, because they each have their own interpretation of it. You're
right 100% about that. But as in every negotiations, it's the mediator that steps in and presumably gives their understanding of what those phrases mean. And that's why what was a bit revealing is what you and I spoke about yesterday. If you remember yesterday, I said it's incredibly paradoxical. It's surprising, shocking almost. The fact that it's Hamas and the United States that want a ceasefire, and that it's the Netanyahu government that does not want a ceasefire. Well, the United States have provided all the guarantees it could provide, apparently, and that's why Director Burns, the director of the CIA, stayed overnight and then stayed again, extended his stay in Doha in order apparently to arrive at these understandings between the United States and the mediators, or Hamas, about the phrases or the phraseology, if you will, about moving forward. Now, what's important in this is there a will on the part of the United States to make sure that the parties respect whatever they reach to and that they arrive at the spirit and the letter of the agreement? I think that's what's important. Now, what happened over the past 2 weeks that you and I and others have spoken about? What happened over the past 2 weeks, it has become clear that the continuation of this war means the end of the Biden presidency. Stopping this war means the end of Netanyahu's premiership. That's where we're at. Biden has every incentive to reach a ceasefire because things are starting to boil up 100%. In his domestic scene in an election year. So now I'm going to go out on a limb and analytically, from a historical perspective, tell you that what happened at the universities in the United States was a major factor for why we are here now.
Not quite
in the sense of putting a huge
back.
Psychological pressure and some political pressure on the Biden administration to move more willfully, more determinedly on the question of trying to get both parties together. On the question of Hamas, there was
the election is in 6 months. I'm not interrupting. I'm just adding this. The election, the U.S. election, is in 6 months, almost to the day.
Absolutely.
Wow.
Now, there was also pressure on Hamas, and we have to be clear.
6 more months of this fucking crap.
Yesterday, today, I'm not sure, Lloyd Austin, the U.S. Secretary of Defense, was basically justifying Israel's horrific land invasion of Rafah if it takes place by saying Hamas left Israel no option but to invade Rafah. That's I don't want to say criminal. I don't want to use any vocabulary that's above and beyond. But that was definitely unconventional declaration from an American Secretary of Defense to basically justify an Israeli invasion that is to the disliking of the Biden administration itself.
They just said they can't support this.
Absolutely. So the fact that Lloyd Austin would say Hamas has given Israel no other option but to invade Rafah, that's a terrible. Anyway, but be that as it may, I think the pressure on Hamas has been huge over the past 72 hours. That Netanyahu made it clear that if nothing's going to happen soon on the captives, that he was going to invade. Gallant said today, nothing is happening on the captives. We are going in. Right? I'm trying to describe an atmosphere or a dynamic where we find why we're finding ourselves today, in the sense of the parties arriving at terminology that is perhaps acceptable to the United States and Hamas, and maybe tomorrow to Israel, because Israel is going to find itself the odd man out if it does not agree to this, because you're going to hear in the next several hours, take my word for it, European leaders, American leaders, Middle Eastern leaders, all of them coming out and say yes to this mediator's proposal for a ceasefire. And it's going to be Israel's going to be the odd man out, and we'll see what happens.
They want Israel to do it.
Following your earlier train of thought on Gallant and Israeli officials saying we're moving into,
and I that's what I hope ad vitam. That's what I hope. Unfortunately, as I've said before, the language that Israel has been using about peace has just been to placate the West. Their actions, and quite frankly, some of their direct statements about how, with or without a peace deal, we're going into Rafah. I don't see any intention from Israel to stop this. Like I said, what I think they're doing, and the reason why we don't have any news from Israel, they're working on their messaging as to why they're not going to accept this and why they're going to proceed anyway.
To Rafah, we have no choice but to do it because Hamas is left with no choice, right? This has been their messaging. And then this morning, the Israeli military ordered more than 100,000 Palestinians to leave parts of Rafah. I've been wondering, is that the ultimate bargaining tool for them to say, we're serious, look, we're moving in. We're starting with this little slice of Rafah, 100,000 people. There are 1.5 million people, 1.4 million to go if you don't stop us now.
I've been saying for the past 15 years on Al Jazeera, as we go from one diplomatic debacle to another over different fronts of whether it's Iran and Egypt, Syria, Turkey, and so on and so forth. In the end of the day, negotiations/diplomacy are a reflection of the balance of power or the imbalance. They are not the production. They are not the end product of some clever people trying to reach some clever terminology. That comes later. In the end of the day, there is a balance of power. Hamas has proven that it's unbeatable. You can destroy Gaza. Apparently, you can't destroy Hamas. One. Two, Israel has proven.
Technically, right. They will exist as an entity. They will still be able to attack. But the only way to truly destroy terrorism is the complete annihilation of the people if you don't want to treat them like human beings. If you want to treat them like human beings, then terrorism will go away because people will no longer have to resort to terrorism to fight back. We must remember terrorism is is the end result of failed diplomacy, basically. And if Thanos snapped all of Hamas away, there'd be Hamas 2.0 the next day because we're not changing the on-the-ground reality. And for the last 70 years, something like that, there has been no indication of treating the Palestinians like a country, legitimizing them in that way. And I'm not sure why they would start now.
That it can destroy Gaza and it can continue to destroy whatever it wants to destroy, and no one is going to stop it. The United States has proven that there is no third party capable as the United States to do something if it's actually willing to do something, whether towards war or towards peace in this part of the world. That in the end of the day, it does have leverage with the troublemaker, and as far as I'm concerned, analytically speaking, which is Israel. The powerful country, which is Israel. So we have arrived after 7 months of destruction of Gaza without being able to achieve the ultimate objectives of the Netanyahu government of October 8, October 9, right? And the United States in an election year having...
And remember, we read that article from Haaretz, from that right-wing Israeli pro-annihilate the Palestinians guy, who was like, we're not accomplishing any of our goals here. Hamas will exist. We're not going to get back the hostages. We've reduced our standing with our international partners. It's just been L after L after L, and of course, what do we hear on Israeli media? We're going to get them. We're going to get them. One more step forward. Once we complete this operation, the annihilation of Hamas will be complete, and it's a farce. I mean, you go into Rafah, you kill uncountable, who knows how many people, until you've satisfied yourself and okay, Hamas is gone, and then the next week that there's an attack in northern Gaza, or in the middle of Gaza. Some rocket gets fired in. Somebody sneaking along the rubble. Some a strike team of three sneaking along the rubble, setting up ambushes and putting down mines. Harassing construction workers, bulldozing graveyards. I mean, the sky's the limit. Sky's the limit here. So, to say that Hamas it'll be impossible. They need to, because they need to make it that way. They will make it obvious that it will be impossible for Israel to say that we have defeated Hamas. In a way, it would help justify the continued occupation of Gaza. But it would also ruin that propaganda that they want to, that they need, that Bibi needs for his people. He needs to deliver a victory. So fun game. This is fun game we're playing here. They killed doctors, destroyed the IFV Palestinian clinic for future generations. Technically, the hospitals could be rebuilt, and technically, doctors can, come back. There's, lots of talent in Palestine, lots of young people who are willing to learn. What they are ultimately going to deny them is the ability to return home. And it's really just going to be a fun game of will they, won't they, until we've all kind of forgotten, until something major happens, probably the election. And then we're all kind of ignoring it.
9, right? And the United States in an election year having an administration in a bind, whereby you have President Biden, who basically is sitting on a successful economy, basically successful foreign policy, is down in the polls against a man who has about a zillion trials happening at the same time, right? For everything from, I don't know, whatever, I'm not going to go into the prostitution bits of it, whatever it is, right?
The sex
so
stuff,
Biden understands that
real
the war in
estate
Gaza
stuff,
has hurt him a lot.
insurrection.
He thought he can, I don't know, whatever, I'm not going to go into the prostitution bits of it, whatever it is, right? So Biden understands that the war in Gaza has hurt him a lot. He thought he can somehow, what's the word in English? He can get, can escape the storm, right?
Skate.
He can wither the storm.
Skate by.
Right? But apparently not. Something happened in the psyche of the American public because of what happened on the campuses.
Different. It wasn't like this in the 90s and early 2000s when it came to Israel and Palestine. It was just, those guys are screaming Allah Akbar. Okay, smoke them. It was really kind of gross. But things are changing, and I think a big part of this is, I'm seeing a lot of the people that are standing up are people of color that are in government and in power. And I think even though they're not Arab or Muslim, they still see themselves somewhat as, potentially marginalized. If it could be justified with them, it could be justified with me. So I think that might be a little part of it as well, that we're seeing, this acceptance of women and people of color, people outside of, white men, getting into positions of power. I think that's been a little bit of a change in this as well, because we've seen mainstream media more willing to stand up to Israel, even though they're probably receiving, just emails and phone calls, and it's probably constant harassment from the pro-Israeli lobbies and things like that. No matter how much they placate them, if there's any criticism whatsoever, any pushback, any critical thinking on it, then they're going to be receiving lots of this is anti-Semitic, this is anti-Semitic, all that kind of stuff. So it takes a certain amount of courage, I guess you could call it, to stand up to that kind of pressure. And we have been seeing that more on mainstream media. I've definitely shown lots of examples. That Chris Hayes video I showed last time is a great example.
You can wither the storm, right? But apparently not. Something happened in the psyche of the American public because of what happened on the campuses of several hundred American universities. The virus of revolt started spreading even to European universities. The young people, the Z generation, has revolted in a way that is so moral, so ethical, so clear about its call for justice. That I think
revolted, no. Standing up and being a squeaky wheel, doing all right on that. I mean, we're seeing, where young people dominate, the social media is where young people dominate. The Free Palestinian narrative dominates, and that's a great sign. That's really great.
Biden feels the need to push further towards a ceasefire. That's what changed over the past couple of weeks.
Sure.
Marwan, we will be coming back to you very regularly throughout the course of the evening.
There was more pressure.
Marwan Bashar, Al Jazeera's senior political editor. Thank you.
Yeah, so that was very enlightening. Let's just go ahead and type, Rafah or Gaza? No, let's type ceasefire into YouTube and see what's coming up here. I just want to get the latest, and I want to see what mainstream media is saying about this. And of course, what I really want is I want to see what the hell Israel is going to be saying. ABC, Guardian News. NSC coordinator says her negotiation is still ongoing. All right, let's take a look here. We got Mr. Kirby.
So Hamas says it's agreed to a ceasefire proposal from Israel, but Israel has said, hold on, that's not what we talked about. We need to counter. We need to think about this. So the bottom line is...
Okay, yeah. No, like I said, they got to work on their messaging.
Still no ceasefire. John Kirby is taking questions from correspondents there at the White House briefing. And for more, we bring in our senior White House correspondent, Selena Wang. Also, national security analyst, Mick Mulroy. Good to see you both.
Easily confused.
Yes, it's true. Selena, let's start with you. I mean, really, this isn't going anywhere. We're at a standstill. So no matter what conversation Biden had with Netanyahu and what Hamas has agreed to, Israel is still not on board.
Yeah, look, well, Kirby made clear there that the negotiations are still ongoing. The question of whose ball is this court in now? How does Israel respond? That is the major question. And the U.S. is now confirming that, yes, Hamas has responded to this proposal. And in live time, the U.S. is talking about this with their partners in the region on the ground. And the big question, of course, is what are the parameters that Hamas actually agreed to? Kirby was very, very tight-lipped, very careful
truly understand
not to give any
end.
detail on that, saying that the last thing he wants to do is to jeopardize this very sensitive process. But what we do know, according to the Israeli side, is that what Hamas agreed to is not what they had agreed to. What the U.S. had been pushing for is a 6-week temporary ceasefire that would see the release of hostages, more humanitarian aid. And the hope on the U.S. side is that that would then extend into a longer pause that could lead to more lasting peace. What Hamas agreed to, we don't know. The big question, of course, is how long it will take to respond, how Israel will respond.
Ms. Wang, we do know that Al Jazeera listed off there's 3 sections. Miss Wang, is there no one on ABC? Come on, is there no one on ABC that can like, I know you're in a fucking hurry here, but no, it's the deal that was made by the mediators in Cairo, Egypt. It's 3 chapters. Okay, yeah, no, we have no idea. It's crazy, guys. Anyway, it's just a flub. You know, she's trying to snap this out as quickly as possible. Greetings from south of Boston. It's your motherfucking boy, Lenny. Welcome back, Lenny. Hope you're doing well. Thank you for coming in on a Monday afternoon.
The Israeli side has said it could take a while before they have an official response.
All right, so let me go to Mick Mulroy now on really what's going on here, Mick. One of the things that Hamas says is that there will be a complete withdrawal of Israeli forces from Gaza as part of this deal. That doesn't sound likely. So what is this? Is this negotiating that's happening, or is it posturing and acting for the world community or for their own populations?
Oh, my God. Cupping those balls.
But Terry, it might be a lot of both of those, quite frankly, because when you say you accept an offer,
that's what I thought. So here's the pro-Israeli shield to soften the blow here and you know, get us ready for the fucking-ing. Okay, here we go.
Don't give a counteroffer, because a counteroffer is an actual rejection of the offer. That said, it doesn't mean that Israel cannot look at the counteroffer and accept it. And that is where we are right now. They have to find the details of which is actually in the writing, and that's why they always ask Hamas to put what they're saying in writing, so there's no confusion. But it does look clear to me that the Israelis are looking at this offensive in Rafah as going forward until an agreement is actually reached. So hopefully they can review this early and quick and give a response back. If that's the case and there's an agreement met, we move to implementation. If there's not an agreement met, it looks like we're moving toward action in the form of a Rafah offensive.
And Mick, I'm just going to follow up. How much of Israel's willingness to look at this Hamas counteroffer, which, as you properly say, that's really what's going on here, is because of U.S. pressure?
So I do think that gives Israel pause to really show that they're interested in this ceasefire. I think, quite frankly, right now, they would rather just go to Rafah and end the last 4 battalions of Hamas so that they can get the pressure off them, which is incredible, both from the international community and the United States. I think the United
So Mr. Glassy-eyed Goober over here thinks these 4 battalions are what, just hanging out? They're just chilling, waiting to get slaughtered by Israel? Really? I mean, I don't know. Hamas is pretty fucking stupid. But if you're a commander for Hamas and they're dropping the leaflets and they've actually done some airstrikes, I have some videos of that in Rafah. You know, you got Bibi promising this is going to happen regardless of what happens. Are you just going to keep your dudes there? They got the tunnels and stuff. They can get the hell out of there. So I don't know, 4 battalions. Boy, that sounds like you're fighting an army. It does. Hamas likes to pretend they're an army, of course. But are we really going to pretend this scattered group of maniacs, barely equipped maniacs, is an army in the conventional sense? Battalions? What's a battalion? 7 guys on a Toyota? Is that a battalion? Yeah, fucking 4 guys in a Honda Civic with some grenades?
The United States does have leverage in this, obviously, but ultimately it's the decision of democratically elected government of Israel.
All right,
thanks for pointing that out.
Nick Mulroy, thank you both.
Wow, democratically elected. Guys, did you know that? Wow. Thanks, bro. Democratically elected. All right, so here's Kirby with his comments.
The president has been briefed on the response. He's aware of where the situation and where the process is. What you're asking me is, like, when are we going to get, like, a final, you know...
What is the answer?
Final table slap here. There's a process that has been worked in the past and will be worked this time. You get a response by Hamas. We're going to have to evaluate that. We're going to see what's in it. Certainly, the Israelis must have a chance to look at this and to evaluate it. And Director Burns, as we speak, literally as you and I are talking, are having these conversations with partners in the region. It would be great. I'm sure we'd all like to have an answer as soon as possible, but I just don't want to get ahead of that process. The president has been briefed. Yeah,
that's fair. Normally, I'd take a shit on Kirby for tiptoeing around and dancing, but he can't predict the future here. All right, let's get the opinion. Yeah, blessed up. Well, it could be huge. Let's get BBC's opinion on this, and then I'll show you the videos of, or at least the one video I have of the airstrike that happened, I think earlier today, in Rafah.
Terms could include. Good evening. In the last hour, Hamas leaders have said they'll agree to a ceasefire proposal put forward by Egypt. Good evening. In the last hour, Hamas leaders have said they'll agree to a ceasefire proposal put forward by Egypt and Qatar in the 7-month-old war with Israel. It's understood the terms could include the release of 33 hostages held since the October the 7th attacks last year. There has been no immediate response so far from Israel, but if there is an agreement, it would be the first pause in the fighting since a week-long truce last November. Well, Jeremy Bowen is here with me in the studio. This is a turn up for the books, literally in the last hour, and the mood music getting into that was not good.
No, it's very bleak because the Israelis, of course, gave those warnings this morning to people in Rafah to move. The offensive was about to happen, or rather a smaller scale version of it. So I've been talking to people close to the talks, normally reliable diplomatic sources. And what I've been told is that they've agreed to release 33 Israeli hostages, a 40-day ceasefire. There would be freedom of movement for people in Gaza to return to the north, which has not been allowed up to now. And then there'd be a second phase, which is known as restoring sustainable calm. Now, my information is that was language proposed by the Americans back in February, rejected by the Israelis, but accepted by them, reportedly, I'm told by these sources, on the 28th of April that they agreed to it. And that American language is basically a creative way of talking about a long-term ceasefire, because Israel didn't want to use that sort of language. So, my source said everyone's read was that Netanyahu was hoping Hamas wouldn't take it. We'll have to see what he does now. The ball is in his court. Hamas has called their bluff. The Israelis themselves, there have been some reports on news agencies saying that this is a ruse by Hamas. They're looking into it. Maybe it's not quite what they agreed to, but clearly things are happening. The head of the CIA has been talking all day to the Qatari Prime Minister in Doha, their capital. Biden will speak to Netanyahu later, and the King of Jordan is at the White House right now, and he, of course, has been a big critic of the war.
Indeed. Okay, Jeremy, thank you, our international editor there. Let's go straight to Jerusalem, and Frank Gardner is standing by. Any word yet from the Israelis on this development, Frank?
He's teething.
No, not so far. An unnamed official has indicated that these softened terms, as they put it, are not going to be acceptable to the Israeli government. So the mood music here in Israel is not particularly optimistic, I have to say. The Israeli media have said that the terms have altered in some way. Whatever Hamas has agreed to, even if it is still the same deal that was on the table, has still got to be agreed to by the Israeli government and signed off. Now, there is mounting pressure on Prime Minister Netanyahu
it's the deal Israel has been
by the
asking
families
for.
of the hostages, saying, do a deal, because your military operation in Gaza isn't getting our loved ones out. And those voices are getting louder and louder. I drive every night past these protesters who are desperate to get their hostages out. There's still 90+ hostages thought to still be alive in Gaza, and they are, of course, the big bargaining chip for Hamas. They're not going to give that up unless they can be assured that this war is going to end.
All right, Frank, thank you for that. Frank Gardner there, live in Jerusalem.
Yes. All right, let me see if I can give you this footage now of this airstrike that happened just a few hours ago in Rafah. Is this it? No. Is this the one it? Let's see here. See if I can find this. Find it. Maybe I didn't link it. Shit.
وين بدي اطلع؟ لا في مصاري ولا في اي حاجه، عن جد انا تعبت انا والاولاد اللي معي، وين بدي اروح؟ وين؟
Poor woman. Poor woman. Yep. I can't find this clip. Is it there? I mean, they're talking about it. No, that's great. Christ. God. Twin brother. His twin. His twin. Jesus, I couldn't imagine losing a brother. Then he looks just like you. And you go to your brother's funeral and he looks just like you. And you're so young. Before you even hit adolescence, you're dealing with that. Squirrely butt. Okay, so I don't seem to have this airstrike footage. I apologize. Thought I did. Yeah, so I have this one queued up. I got this for the Teo. We got Al Jazeera getting kicked out right before the invasion. No coincidence. Hey, good hitting the keyboard, buddy. No coincidence. Oh, it didn't break. Good job, kiddo. All right, we got ourselves a disaster here. Hold on. There's this really, really good Mehdi Hassan clip I'd like to show you. Talking about the truth of Israel and the hostages. All right, I'll be right back.
As Israel prepares to invade Rafah, violate Joe Biden's red line, and kill who knows how many more thousands of innocent men, women, and children in Gaza, we need to talk about the elephant in the room. We need to talk about the hostages. Because the Israelis say this is all about the hostages. They say we don't talk about the hostages enough. So let's do that. Let's talk today about the hostages, because there are three very important things they don't tell you about the hostages. First, for everyone who believes that Benjamin Netanyahu and his government of far-right fascists and racists are fighting their war in Gaza in order to rescue the hostages, how do they explain the fact that Netanyahu had a chance to bring all of the civilian hostages home right at the very beginning? Those aren't my words. That's not my opinion. It's the view of Chaim Rubenstein, who until very recently was a spokesman for the families of the Israeli hostages, and who said last week, quote, "We learned that Hamas offered on October 9th or 10th to release all the captive civilians in its hands if the IDF did not enter the Gaza Strip, but the government rejected the offer." In fact, the Washington Post reported on a similar proposal at the end of October, saying Hamas was proposing to release all foreign civilian hostages in exchange for a 5-day ceasefire. Israeli civilian hostages would be released if additional demands were met, he said, including the release of Palestinian women and children in Israeli prisons and the opening of the Rafah border crossing. Second, for everyone who pops up on my Twitter feed to still tell me, well, Hamas could end this war if they just released all the hostages, have they paid any attention to anything the Israeli government has actually said on this subject? Israeli officials have said time and again that the war won't end until Hamas is destroyed, regardless of whether the hostages are released. Bezalel Smotrich, Israel's finance minister, made clear this week he was opposed to any hostage release deal that stopped Israel from going into Rafah. Now, you might say, that's just Smotrich, he's not in charge. Well, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu also said this week that he would invade Rafah with or without a deal on the hostages. His words, not mine. And third, something that keeps being left out of the mainstream media, ignored by all those who claim to care about hostages, is that the hostages at the core of this conflict, at the heart of this current round of killing and violence, aren't just Israelis, they're Palestinians too. Yes, Palestinians too, because while we're all aware of the fact that around 250 hostages were taken from Israel by Hamas and other armed groups.
Okay, we're back. Hope you're enjoying this clip. I thought it was a really good rundown of the cynical use of hostages by Israel since basically the very beginning. We're definitely going to finish this clip. Davin, haven't heard any news. Davey, have you heard any news about F-16s? I know there's some on their way, but do we know if they're actually going to be hitting the skies? And thank you, Lenny, for that comment. You know, he's growing up.
On October the 7th, including, shamefully, children, and around 130 hostages remain in captivity in Gaza. We don't really mention the hundreds, thousands of Palestinians who've been rounded up, detained, held without trial, tortured, sexually abused, without any charges, let alone any convictions, in Israeli prisons. And I'm not even talking about just since October the 7th. I'm talking about before October the 7th.
Yeah,
according to the Israeli human rights group B'Tselem, on the eve of the October 7th attacks, at the end of September 2023, Israel was holding over 1,300 Palestinians as hostages in what they conveniently call administrative detention.
No trial,
around
no
half
jury.
of them for a year or more, and 23 of them, shamefully, children, held without trial, without charge.
And I've shown you images of children being kept in dog cages. I don't know if temporarily or permanently, while under Israeli, word captivity. But you know, the problem is that there's no procedure. They're just held indefinitely, like Gitmo.
The reality is that under international law, hostage taking is a war crime, whether Palestinians or Israelis do it, just as intentionally targeting and killing civilians is a war crime, whether Palestinians or Israelis do it. So, to summarize then, the Netanyahu government chose not to do a deal to release the Israeli hostages, according to the spokesman for their family members. Even if Hamas were to release the hostages tomorrow morning, Israel has no plans to end its assault on Gaza. And, the biggest issue of all perhaps, the hostages aren't just on the Israeli side, they're on the Palestinian side too. Those are the facts. The objective, demonstrable, undeniable facts.
Yeah.
And look, this is a human tragedy. many innocent Israelis are wrongly being held hostage in Gaza, and many Israeli families are waiting for a father, a brother, a loved one to come home. And to them, I say I stand in solidarity, in humanity, with you. I say free the hostages, Israeli and Palestinian. But, and there is a but, as the Israeli military prepares to wipe out Rafah and kill thousands more people. Remember this, when the bad faith apologists for Israel pop up on TV or online to justify that violence, and to robotically and cynically repeat, what about the hostages? Ignoring all of the three things that I just pointed out to you, treat that dishonest refrain with the contempt it deserves.
Yeah, yo, Mehdi Unchained over here, dude. Mehdi with the motherfucking fighting words. Mehdi removed from the restraints of MSNBC, telling it like it is, man. You gotta love that. Fuck yeah, dude. Give me some more of that, dude. Give me a couple spoonfuls of Mehdi. Good shit. Okay, let's see if I can find this Rafah airstrike. So yeah, Davin over here talking about Russia apparently. Just real quick, we'll take a quick peek at this link. I did put it in the Discord, but yeah, Russia over here talking about F-16s, but they talk a lot of shit, don't they? Wow, great website. Holy shit. No, it's more like it's my computer. It's my web browser. Whoa, my web browser. I should probably use Firefox. There's some headline about a guy who had 7,500 open tabs or something in Firefox. Statement by the Russia Ministry of Affairs in connection to the holding. Damn, you read this shit? You just peruse this? You just over here perusing this website? There's problems with training Ukrainians to fly F-16s properly in that period of time. I hear conflicting information about that. I'm pretty sure I've seen Ukrainian pilots saying that it's not. Well, I've definitely seen Ukrainian pilots say it's totally different than the Russian style fighter jets that they were used to fighting. So apparently, Israeli tanks have already begun to enter Rafah. Yeah, of course. It's not about. Yeah. So, but I mean, this is just that first chunk. So they told 100,000 people to leave. So they're gonna proceed with this. This is not stopping. In the civilized world, my God. The fucking racism on display on Twitter, dude. We're cheering for you in the civilized world. It's really disgusting how this shit just goes totally unchecked. Hamas is on its knees, huh? Yeah. I would imagine the United States, patriots saying the same thing about the Taliban. I'm sure there were a lot of bumper stickers to that effect. You better run, Osama. You better run, Taliban. How well did that go? Thank you, Davey, for that link. So this is live. I don't know if this is still going on. Let's see here. Yep, protest still going on at the Kamen at MIT. Congratulations, students, for continuing the protests, continuing the movement, continuing the pressure on Joe Biden. Pressure works, okay? Centrists and bad actors and all kinds of motherfuckers want to tell you that it doesn't work. Oh, you shouldn't do it. Now's not the right time. Don't be political. No, you can't do it now. You're helping the other side. Pressure works, okay? Don't let them tell you otherwise. Big prop to Isvik. Man, I love this shit. What is this? What is this? I don't want this. I don't care. Sexual perversions on my fucking Twitter, on my YouTube. Small anime girl brushing her teeth and eating an egg. Right-wingers freak out as Sadiq Khan re-elected as London mayor. Freak out, really? For his third term? I don't know. That seems clickbaity. Hold on here. Rafah strike. Yeah, Israeli military strikes the southern city of Rafah after warning refugees to move. So here we go.
War between Israel and Hamas. This morning, the Israeli military began carrying out strikes in Rafah, which is a sign of Israel's military operation in the region intensifying. ABC's Perry Russell reports.
This morning, explosions in Rafah. The Israeli military carrying out strikes in the southern Gaza city, where more than...
I mean, that's been a big problem for these... you know, for these lefties that are implementing these more humane policies around the kind of, you know, small time crime that economic situations and, you know, various, you know, socioeconomic factors can produce. They'll stop the police state thug tactics, right? They'll tell the cops you can't just abuse these people and kick them around. Oh, thank you. You know, they you know, but then they don't invest in proper education and proper programs to help people get jobs. And you know, you can't just do one step of the decriminalization. You can't just do the decriminalization and then it just kind of figures itself. You need to spend billions of dollars on helping people get back on their feet. And if they don't, they start breaking into cars, and then they get caught by the fucking cops, and then they're right out, you know, 5 hours later breaking into more cars or doing God knows what. They don't want to fix the neoliberals. They don't want to fix the economies. They don't, you know, because they're corporatists. They love Jeff Bezos. Was to make the city good again. Well, he won. Platinum. He won. But I'm seeing this in Oakland. I'm seeing this in California, especially. A lot of neoliberals. They do like step one when it's like a 50-step process. To fixing the problem. And of course, we never want to talk about taxing the rich, never to fund any of this, because this shit should be coming out of Jeff Bezos's pocket. Can't do that. So that's interesting to hear that criticism about Sadiq Khan. All right, let's get back to it. Show you these airstrikes.
And 1 million Palestinian refugees are sheltering from war. Israel's military issuing an evacuation for parts of Rafah, signaling a ground invasion could be close. This woman saying, "I left my home and fled. I did not take one thing with me." People fleeing with whatever they could fit in and on their cars. This man says Israel told people to go to Rafah and that it's safe. Today they're telling us to leave. Where will the people go? Today in Israel, sirens blared, traffic coming to a stop. The country observing Holocaust Remembrance Day, the first since the Hamas attack of October 7th. Prime Minister...
So we're proceeding with the invasion on Holocaust Remembrance Day. How many people are going to die today? That's crazy, man. Jesus.
Benjamin Netanyahu says the carnage of the Holocaust is incomprehensible. It equates to 5,000 October 7ths. Over the weekend, Hamas releasing new video of rockets being launched into Israel. 4 Israeli soldiers killed, 10 others hurt. Negotiations between Israel and Hamas apparently breaking down. Hamas' delegation now leaving the meetings in Cairo after demanding Israel withdraw and stop its bombardment.
No decision by any international forum will stop Israel from defending itself.
President Biden and Netanyahu spoke on the phone this morning. The White House has said previously it's against any large military operation in Rafah.
This was just 4 hours ago. Man, it already seems like ancient news, doesn't it? Yeah, we don't really have anything. They're moving in. They're going into Gaza. It's happening right now as we speak. See if we can find any live streams. Oh, well, we got Vosh here. Okay, what's he up
all
to?
the goals we talked about on the first day.
Well, that's optimistic. Hold on.
I wonder what other News.org live coverage feeds are talking about right now.
Qualify us for that federal assistance.
Houston area flooding.
Okay, wow. Cool. He's got people, so he's got a whole team of people that gives him links and stuff, huh? Oh, that's fun. I'm confused. Is it a Rafah invasion or a ceasefire? Both. Welcome to hell, Clutch Cargo. Welcome to hell. See here. Yeah, no, I think I'm okay on this. I don't really... Is there a way to make this go away? No? Okay, that's neat. That's really neat. I can't make that go away. Neat. View of Rafah as Hamas proposes ceasefire. We got a Reuters live stream. Israelis join families of Israeli hostages taken by Hamas. Al Jazeera live stream. Homeboy still talking.
It's one of my mottos. Arrogance breeds stupidity. Even when and if Israel does attack Rafah and does destroy Rafah and kill tens of thousands of more Palestinians, it wouldn't destroy Hamas. That's the lesson that the Americans have learned, and they are teaching that to the Israelis. That no matter what you're going to do, how many people you're going to kill, you're probably going to give more recruits to Hamas in the future out of the many people who lost their loved ones.
It's a catch-22 situation by the looks of it for Benjamin Netanyahu. If he pushes on into Rafah, he, again, international opinion of Israel's actions worsens. If he, on the other hand, agrees to this proposal, he capitulates to Hamas and loses the support of right-wingers within his own government. I mean, this is an awkward tightrope for Netanyahu.
But, I mean, I get what you're saying in the way it could be spun in Israel. But Netanyahu has not capitulated to Hamas. And he is not capitulating to Hamas. Hamas is accepting conditions and versions of proposals by the United States and Egypt, not exactly the best friends of Hamas. Right? So Hamas is being the reasonable party here, saying we need a ceasefire. So much of Gaza have destroyed, so many Palestinians have died. We need to wrap it up. The Americans believe the same thing. So it is not that Israel is capitulating to Hamas. What we're having here is that a situation
this is very much Hamas.
Genocide,
that's what Hamas is doing.
After so many war crimes, so much death and destruction, Israel could not achieve
Hamas is
strategic objective,
basically surrendering.
Hamas. But it will not. In
they're accepting Israel's terms.
With Hezbollah. Between 1982
6-week
and 2000,
ceasefire.
For 18 years, Israel occupied South Lebanon. Hezbollah became stronger.
It's not really.
Since the 1980s, they said they're going to destroy Hamas. Hamas have become stronger.
They should put their surrender as a term.
The root causes. The root causes.
That would help. That would have helped.
The occupation of Lebanon. The root causes
then we'll surrender.
Then the occupation in Palestine. Yeah. You need to resolve those. You need to end the siege and the occupation. Blah blah blah. It's really simple. It's ABC. Stop occupying the Palestinians. You will deal with the issues of the danger and the security and so on and so forth.
But that doesn't seem to be tantamount to something he could communicate as a win to his own people in Israel, surely.
But no, he will not be able to, certainly to his government. But what the Americans are telling Netanyahu, this is not the end of it. We support you in your, I'm not going to call it crusade, but whatever it is against Hamas, right? The Biden administration is not saying it's finished, it's all over. He's saying there's another way of dealing with the question of Hamas, and it's not necessarily through the killing of tens of thousands of Palestinians. But it was also the same case from before. Remember how Netanyahu wanted to deal with Hamas before October 7? By allowing more and more money to get to Hamas so that he can divide between Hamas and Fatah in Palestine, and he can rule comfortably on occupation. That hasn't worked. So once
tired
again,
of these fucking
for
images.
the people in Israel,
I'm so tired of this.
Peace needs to be based on real security. Real security is based on real peace.
On that point, Marwan, briefly, what is the consequence of a failure of this potential ceasefire?
If there's no will to actually respect it, no matter what version of it comes, even if you get a version that is closer to Israel, if there is no will on the part of the Israelis and the Americans to make sure it does get implemented, then no matter how the version is closer to the Israeli mindset, we would still not go anywhere. That's why I think eventually we will need a different Israeli government. I think your previous guest was correct in saying it's going to be up to the Israeli people, because this government is not intent on peace based on mutual respect and negotiations and two-state solution. It rejects all of that.
Marwan, many thanks as always.
Yeah, that's a fact. There's absolutely no stomach for a two-state solution. From Bibi Netanyahu, from Ben Gvir, it's really just a debate about the nuts and bolts of destroying Palestine that they disagree on. They certainly, they would never agree to any kind of actual cooperation, legitimizing the Palestinian country state, by acknowledging it and working with it like a normal country would. They'd rather die. They'd rather die. That's what we've been dealing with. 13 people watching News 18. Oh, wow. Why? Why only 13?
Shock number 1. अमेरिका ने इजरायली सेना की एक स्पेशल यूनिट पर प्रतिबंध लगाने की तैयारी कर ली है।
Can we just have this?
नेतन्याहू को शॉक नंबर 2। इजरायल की मिलिट्री इंटेलिजेंस के चीफ ने पद से इस्तीफा दे दिया है। नेतन्याहू को शॉक नंबर 3। ईरान के सुप्रीम लीडर अली खामेनी ने कहा है कि ईरान की मिसाइल पर इजरायल खौफ में
It's like a coked up 16-year-old doing news.
इस वक्त ईरान के इजरायल पर हमले और गाजा पर
Yeah, the killing and land grab will continue. I mean, it's like it's all an effort to justify that. That is the end goal. Ukraine live cam. That's nice to see. Yeah, it looks like we don't have much on this. It's all about, we're just waiting on, Israel, basically what we know is that Israel is proceeding. They're likely going to occupy that section of Rafah that they've told 100,000 Palestinians to leave, to get out of. Then I guess then they'll respond to the agreement. we're just waiting for the Israeli tank to come rolling down. Is that what we're waiting for here? Yeah, basically. Yeah. All right, so basically what's going to happen here, I'm going to wrap it up right now, but if some major development happens in the next few hours, I'll definitely fire up the stream again when I get a chance here. I got to go back, take care of kiddo, So that's where we're at right now. It looks like Israel, once again, Israel is going to be occupying this small section of Rafah, the area that they told these 100,000 Palestinians to leave. They dropped leaflets, and then I guess, in between that time, we might get some kind of official response, or it might happen after that. Who knows about the timing on that? The ball is firmly in Bibi Netanyahu's court, and I believe the response that we're going to be seeing is, basically, we're not going to stop. It's fully justified. Yada, yada, yada. We're not going to stop until we defeat Hamas. 4 battalions. I think we're going to hear more about these battalions that are hiding, and my question is, though, once again, we talked about this yesterday, if the plan is to never give back the Gaza Strip, what is the plan? What do you do with these, 1.5 million, 1 million people in Rafah, but almost 2 million people in total? One possibility that I've thought about yesterday that I haven't talked about is them just kind of cutting off basically 1/4 of the Gaza Strip and then taking the rest instead of half, giving them a quarter. That's a possibility. You know, kind of creating these like spill out zones, but I don't know. I guess we'll see. I am hoping that, you know, Israel will make the humanitarian move. Of course, there's some hope. I've read Twitter posts from people in Rafah who said they're currently crossing the border into Rafah. Yeah, so they're going to be occupying that space that they told the people to evacuate from. Then they're going to, like I said, they're going to blitz the media with, we're going to continue this Rafah operation. We're not going to agree to this. We're going to continue. You know, we're going to renegotiate. We're going to send back different terms. You know, while we're doing this, we're also going to finish the Rafah operation. It's all justified. It's all justified. It's all moral. Yada yada. Yeah, but we'll see. We'll see. And that's where we're at right now. But big props to you, Davey. Thank you for the links. Thank you for the info. Lenny, of course. Everyone should check out Lenny. Davin, thank you for coming back. Clutch Cargo, iPlatinum. Hope everyone's having a good Monday. Blessed Up Kids, Borderline, Feline, Ribbons, Woke Patriot, and ROB. Thank you for coming all in. Sorry for the super short stream, but I got to go take care of kiddo. You know how it goes. Like I said, if we do see any major if we do see any major movements or any kind of major story breaking, I'll pop back on the stream here. But like I said, what we can assume, someone you trust is one of us. What we can assume is that Israel is going to occupy this portion of Rafah, and then we can probably expect some kind of official response as to why they're going to continue and finish this operation. You know, God help us all. Hopefully these Palestinians get the hell out of there and don't get caught up in these bombs that are definitely going to be dropping. It's just a reaction from Hamas once they realized the invasion was imminent. I think there's several factors here. Al Jazeera was kind of going through some of it a little bit. Don't expect a lot of introspection or man on the street or, you know, interviews or Palestinian perspective from any other news source. With that said, there was a lot of bias that I saw in Al Jazeera's coverage, you know, as expected. Keep an eye on the Met Gala for you. I know how important it is. Well, you know, they dress silly. The celebrities, they dress in silly costumes and stuff. Remember the Eat the Rich from AOC? Yeah, Eat the Rich, huh? What are you gobbling up from the rich there, AOC? All right, everybody. Peace in that motherfucking Middle East. Glory to Ukrainian democracy. Sorry I wasn't able to cover it today. This was it's news. It's superseded. Later, skaters. Let's not forget the 3-step program. You know what it is. Thank you, Clutch Cargo. It's the only thing that's ever worked. It's called political activism. See you next time. God help them all. God help us all. Yeah, they kicked out Al Jazeera and then went in for the invasion. Al Jazeera has pledged to not stop covering this, though, so it's just, you know, kind of showing that Israel is not interested in a legitimate free speech, you know, democracy kind of thing, but whatever. Kind of small beans compared to the amount of people that are likely dying as we speak. All right. Thanks, everybody.